So, fun fact, I am recording this prior to recording the Final Fantasy V video. I just finished Final Fantasy VI, and so I thought I would kind of do this one right off the dome since I just finished it and kind of have a lot of thoughts on it. It is one of the most beloved Final Fantasies of all time. In fact, everyone I know either thinks that this is the best game or 8 or 9, and I haven't played 8 or 9 before, and this is my first time completing 6. So it's kind of cool being able to experience something that a lot of people have really enjoyed. Now, I am going to be talking about spoilers in this game, a lot of story elements, and even like the final boss and stuff. So if you're at all interested in playing Final Fantasy VI and you haven't done it yet, consider going and playing it before watching this video because yeah, I'm going to talk about all that stuff. To start off, I knew a lot going into Final Fantasy VI. It's my dad's favorite game. I'm a Final Fantasy fan. It's pretty hard to be a Final Fantasy fan and not have people bring up the fact that Kefka like blows up the world or that he kind of becomes God at the end. There's no way to avoid this, especially if you've even seen any top 10 lists on like best JRPG final bosses. Like Kefka gets brought up all the time, or best like stories. Final Fantasy VI is well known. It's almost as big as like that one thing in Final Fantasy VII that everyone brings up all the time. Yeah, all the stuff with Kefka. I also played this game as a kid. I didn't beat it, but I got at least to the point where Kefka is like sniping espers out of the air with his finger guns, which is how it is in my head, is him just blah, blah. Yeah, I did at least make it that far. I know I didn't get to the end. I also know I saw like the espers in the cave. I got far, but I didn't beat the game. That's kind of shaped my whole experience with this game because I think a lot of things that would have been very surprising to me on the first playthrough just didn't surprise me because I kind of knew they were coming, or at least I knew that something that they would lead to was coming, and so that something had to happen in between, right? Like if you know that Kefka is going to become God and become the like super powerful, you know at some point the Emperor has to die, right? So like I didn't know how that happened, but I was waiting for it almost the entire time. Like the Emperor can't be the big in charge unless he like fuses with Kefka at some point. That kind of stuff is what I knew was coming, even though maybe not necessarily knew exactly what it was. So a lot of the shock value, I think I didn't really get hit in this playthrough, and because I was a kid and kind of dumb and I don't even remember a lot of the stuff I experienced, I don't think I really have a lot of that nostalgia or that real oomph factor. I really did enjoy this game and I really did enjoy this story, but I don't think it's going to have the huge weight on me that I think a lot of people are going to have when they reminisce on playing it for the first time. So that's kind of weird. That's like a weird scenario to be in, to like, this game's actually really good, but I don't think I love it as much as I wish I did because of things like that. Unfortunately, that's just how things worked out for me, but I want to talk about the story. The story is pretty cool. In any Final Fantasy, the story is probably my biggest thing. Spectacle, characters that I care about. I mean, I do care about like gameplay and stuff. They have to be fun, and I really like getting really powerful. Like my favorite thing in any video game is, you know, punching enough rats to where I can punch God. Like that's my favorite thing. I really enjoyed the story here. We start off revolving around Terra. Terra is this like girl who doesn't have any memories. She's kind of being mind controlled by the Emperor or Empire. She immediately gets captured by these like rebel guys, has the mind control stuff ripped off of her head, and she's able to start trying to discover herself as like kind of almost a new person, even though she's like in her like mid-20s, I assume. And Terra is a very interesting protagonist or main character because there are 14 playable characters in this game. All of them, well, most of them have like fleshed out lore stories, and it's kind of weird to be a main character in that kind of such a developed story, especially in a JRPG. Sorry, didn't mean to hit you. And so Terra's story, while it is the main one, it's mostly the story that connects the most with the plot of the game that moves events forward. She's intrinsically tied in with the Espers, and so like even the destruction of the world, the opening of the gate, all of that is intrinsically tied to Terra. But there's almost two other people I would consider kind of as main characters, and that's Locke and Celes. And I think that's kind of cool because their stories are very intrinsic, even to the point where Celes is the only one in your party at all, and you don't even know if anyone else is alive right after the destruction of the world. You're Celes. You cannot get to the end of the game without Celes being in your party. Anyone else, I think you can. Maybe there's like some weird pitfalls that if you don't have someone in your party, you can't get to the end of the game, but you almost don't need Terra at all, and you don't need Locke. You can just get everyone else and move on if you really wanted to. And I think that's kind of cool, especially because Locke and Celeste have their own developed backstories. Celeste used to work for the Empire, realized it's kind of corrupt and evil, and so betrayed. And then you got Locke, who is like an adventurer and thief who is helping the rebellion against the Empire, but also is looking for someone to save because he wasn't able to save his Rachel, I think is her name, his like love, who lost her memory and unfortunately became comatose kind of for a while. That's a weird thing, her just sitting in a basement with some dude watching over her. That felt weird, but I really do like that there was like multiple different stories you could grab onto and not just Tara's, but Tara's is fine too. Her trying to figure out who she is and what even emotions are, and then finding love in that she finds kids. It's not even like, oh, swooning boy, I love boy and he saved me, blah blah blah. It's literally she just finds kids and she's like, oh, I have a responsibility to take care of these kids, and so now I'm going to be a good mom and protect them, and this is my reason to fight and to be a good hero and things like that. I thought that was really sick. You can dive into a lot of other characters. They all have different side stories. I don't know if everyone does. Like, I don't know if Gao has a story at all, actually. I didn't engage with him at all. Shadow, I know I got a bunch of cutscenes with him as I leveled him up. You've got Cyan. Cyan was one of the few people who I continued his story because of his entire kingdom dies because of Kefka. And so that was kind of interesting. Though, Cyan, what the fuck's up with Cyan? Like, his side quest involves him laying in a bed and then like, kids show up out of nowhere, and then we hop into Cyan's nightmare. What's up with that? I don't know what Esper gave us that magic, what Magicite gave us that ability, but that was weird. I didn't like that at all, actually. I thought that was dumb as fuck. But it was cool to see him get some resolution by seeing his kid and his wife and knowing that they live in his heart. It's cool. The story just felt like it had a lot of love and care put into it. It was just a nice story, sweet in some places. Everyone actually gets some kind of emotional resolve, which was very nice. They actually end stories and you feel like these characters have reached their conclusion. I think out of any game of the Final Fantasy so far, I feel like everyone has reached a conclusion. Like 5 felt really weird at the end for, I can't even remember the main character's name right now, but Bart's felt weird. He kind of just is there, and then they all like high five and they're like, we're still cool people, right? It was a weird conclusion at the end of 5. But this overall, out of any game, feels like the story built up to something and actually can hit a logical conclusion through Kefka like destroying the world and then becoming a huge villain at the end. Sick end scene. But let's talk about Kefka as a villain for now, as a big bad, because I've been very critical about big bads in the series so far, from Exdeath having the dumbest name I've ever heard, to the Cloud of Darkness, the guy who possessed Golbez, Zeromus. Bad guys in the series have been very dumb this far in the game. I think Golbez, if Golbez was the final boss, would have been the best so far, but most of them I haven't really enjoyed. Kefka is perfect. I think. I'm not sure. He's such a good villain because from the first time you see him, he's like, yeah, motherfuckers, I'm going to poison this entire town. I don't give a shit that it is unethical or a war crime or whatever. It works, and I like to hear children scream. So, he's evil, okay? And from the first second, he's evil. And so throughout the game, you just see him do mischievous stuff. He seems totally in league with the Empire. He's even willing to sit in prison at a point to pretend like he's a bad guy, and then it turns out they're just dicking one over on you, and then he starts shooting espers out of the sky, and he's like, ha 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 ha, you fucking idiots. You thought that I was going to like go to prison or something like that? No, I'm here on the king's orders and I'm taking the espers. You guys suck. Fell right into our trap. He's such a funny character that like he's got this shit-eating grin the entire time, this hilarious laugh that he's just like, you guys are dumb as hell. How did you let me get here? There is a reason that I think I have a little bit of trepidation against saying he's actually perfect as a main bad guy, and that is my expectation for him coming into this game after knowing that he destroys the world and knowing that he kind of becomes God was I thought he was going to be some type of more mischievous than he even was, like some constantly plotting to even kill the Emperor and become God. Like this was his plan the entire time. And that's not exactly what happens, really, at least in my understanding. He actually is just going with it and working with the Emperor. He only even really tries to get the power of the Triad after he's been stabbed by Celeste. I don't see anything really from his characterization to seem that he's straight up plotting against the Emperor before this point. He tries to save himself in like a desperate grab to kind of like, not die because he's been stabbed. And then the Emperor's like, you're kind of fucking it up. You're ruining my plan. And then he just happens to be standing in an immortality field where he can't be hit by lightning, and he just turns it back on the Emperor. He's like, oh wait, I actually have the power of God right now. Wait, fuck you, what do I need you for? And then he shoos him away. I actually really loved that moment when I realized that he didn't have a knife ready to stab the Emperor the entire time. It completely happened by happenstance. I don't think it was his plan to take over the Triad at all, or at least that's my understanding. Maybe if I'm wrong in the comments, just let me know, dude. Well, I thought it was sick that he kind of just became almost on accident. It was kind of cool. Where I do hesitate to say that he's perfectly characterized is the world of ruin. After this happens and he misaligns where all the gods are, and it causes the earth to crack and everything to go into dismay. We wake up a year later and obviously everything's dead. People are like, Kefka's a god, blah 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 blah. The entire time we're in the world of ruin, nothing happens. Like, obviously we go on our little story to recruit everyone back in to rise up and build an army against Kefka, but not a single thing, at least that I'm aware of, I didn't engage with anything. Does Kefka actually make this world bad to live in? Now I guess like everyone's dead, right? So maybe that, like, that's what it was supposed to be, but the only tactile, or the only story-based element of, oh look, these are people who live in fear because everyone might die, blah blah blah, is when you're recruiting Terra and there's like Hali Baba or whatever that big demon dude appears twice and everyone's like hiding. So basically there's this giant demon, and that's the only real sense of fear that I ever see anyone have towards like the new regime that's taking over. He doesn't really seem like a lord or like he's like trying to kill people or be cruel or anything. Kefka doesn't do anything at all. In my head, the way I understand Kefka to be is kind of like, oh, I have this power, ha 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 ha, I'm gonna go around and just like shoot people because I think it's fun. I like it when kids scream, but he just sits and waits for us to like get our power and go kill him. I know when he gets up, when we get up there, he goes like, I knew you were coming, but I was like, why wait? Why do you care? Like, literally, you didn't want to wait to kill Doma and you just poisoned the water. Why did you just wait for us to climb the tower? Now I know from my Final Fantasy 3 and 4 video, people hate when I make little nitpicks like that, but that's something I can't like resolve. Another thing I can't resolve in my head is I'm pretty sure when they were setting the gate in the Esper world, like the Elder Esper, he says, and I couldn't find anything to refute this, and maybe I'm confused on something, so again, let me know in the comments if I'm wrong. He says, the power to create a seal is only tied to my bloodline, and I'm the last of my bloodline, as well as creating the seal will kill me. So if once I make the seal, no one's getting in and no one's getting out. Terra's parents, when they like leave out the door, he's like, you're never going to be able to come back. It's not going to be possible. But we open the gate, close the gate, and open again in the game. So I don't understand how that works. I feel like the Esper world should be completely cut off. It doesn't make any sense to me. But other than that, those are like my only two gripes with the story, and even like really the game at large, is what the hell was Kefka doing for the entire time that we're recruiting our entire army? If he knew we were coming, I doubt he would want to like risk his like powers going away. However, the experience of climbing the tower was awesome. I loved being able to separate and build different teams, and then they all kind of work together to climb the tower, as well as the final fight was sick, dude. They called them statues of God. Him being just like this amalgamation, it almost looked like Neo X Death, but like cooler and not dumb as fuck. And it's actually just like this creepy clown dude, and he's just like, yeah, I'm God, the finger guns, you're gonna die. Oh man, the final boss and the whole final sequence just feels really good, not only from a story perspective but also from a gameplay perspective. You've had time to like build up your team, and you are going, now I'm ready to do the final push. We're going for the final push, and there's just this, it's a short tower too, like it's not long at all, and I thought that had a very good culmination. From a emotional, you're ready for this, as well as it's challenging. It's a decent challenging like fight and experience going up, not like bullshit, but definitely it's not super easy. And it's just like real short, and then you kill Kefka and the game's over. It's actually a very nice conclusion to the game. I love it. It's so good. There's this nice moment where like Kefka's all, why would you even fight? Have you guys really found something along this journey that makes all this worth it? And everyone gives their little speech of, yeah, my wife and kids that are still with me in my heart, or yes, the idea of loving another, or it's actually so good. It's a very much the power of friendship moment. It's very nice. Just a 10 out of 10 story. I was about to say 9 out of 10. It's a 10 out of 10 story. It's so good. Even with like those two things that I don't make sense to me, I feel completely emotionally resolved playing this and quite happy with the way it played out. The gameplay, actually, I kind of have similar sentiments, and I don't think anyone's surprised. There's a reason Final Fantasy VI is so well received. It still uses the ATB bar, which is from like 4, I think is the first one that had it, or was it 3? It was 4. It's not too bad in this because you can stop it. I don't know if that's in the original, but I played the Pixel remasters. You can make it so that when you're in the menus that it stops. It feels very slow in this one, which actually makes it so you have plenty of time to make your decisions. So I didn't really have any issues in this version of the ATB system, but it feels like in every other way, Final Fantasy VI takes all the best things I think came from all the previous games. Final Fantasy 1 did a really good job of making like every they weren't called jobs back then, but every job kind of feeling different in what their purpose was. Black mage, white mage, warrior, ninja. 2 did a really good job of being able to upgrade your characters individually. 3 introduced the actual job system. 4 made characters feel very unique to themselves, which I thought was actually really nice. That was one of my favorite things about Final Fantasy 4, was you could tell that Cecil was like he's like a paladin. He heals, he defends, and he does a little bit of damage. He mostly does damage and defends, but then he heals. And then also you had Rydia, who was like, I'm a summoner, this is what I'm good at. And then you had 5, which refined the actual job system, which made it feel like you could actually change your team to be whatever you needed it to be, even though you only had 4 people in your party. 6 gives you so many characters to play with that even though they're all kind of their own thing, you can make your party however you want. You're not restricted to whoever's available to you at one time. I mean, a couple of times throughout the game, they do split you up. At least at the end, when you're like going to the final battle, you get to create your team exactly how you want. You've got, 14 if you collect everyone. You've got 14 people you can pick through. They all have their different classes, all their different abilities. And if you don't like someone, Setzer, I'm looking at you. If you don't like them, fuck them. You don't need to put them on your team. But then also you have the idea of intentional progression through the Magicite system. You can give someone a Magicite and they almost like attune to it, like a magic item in D&D, is they attune to it, they learn the abilities that come from that Magicite, but then even after they learn all the abilities that come from that Magicite, if they level up holding that Magicite, they get bonus stats for some of them. I don't think all of them have it, but I know that Setzer, when in the final dungeon you have to have 3 teams, I decided to use Setzer as a mage, or as a healing mage, as a white mage. He is not exactly known for his magic stats, so what I did is I gave him Jormungandtitis or something, one of the crystals, and what it did is every time that you level up, you get 2 magic. So I was hoping that would increase his magic stat, so he would be able to cast heal more. He was able to cast Curaga quite high, and he was able to keep his team alive. That was really cool. I could kind of craft him to do something he wasn't initially intended to do, because I think he's like a DPS character, even though he doesn't really do that much DPS. I don't know. Setzer, that guy sucked. Mog, I believe, can be a caster, but also he can hold lances, so you can give him the dragon boots, and then he'll jump into the air and he'll become a dragoon. I didn't really use him on my final team. My final team I really enjoyed was Terra, Celeste, Sabin was my favorite character to play. I love Sabin. And then Shadow, just because he looked cool. And that was my team, and I really loved them. And I had Terra, who would cast Ultima. I had Celeste, who would cast Curaga. And then I had Sabin and Shadow, who would do damage. And I thought that team was pretty nice and pretty fun to play, and I was able to create it myself. Even when I was watching tier lists, I know a lot of people were saying Shadow's not that great. A lot of people were dissing on Terra as well. I didn't even use her transformation form. I don't even know what it does, really. That's a little bit embarrassing because I played 20 hours of this game, or 25 something, but that was my team, and I really thought Terra was cool, and she used her magic even though she's not the best spellcaster. And then Celeste I was able to do it with. I think this was actually the most fun I ever had with combat and building a team in this game, especially considering that there's several points in the game where either people are marooned by themselves, so you have to do what you can with the team that you're available earlier on in the game. Like Locke is reduced by himself, and then he finds Celeste, and so you have Locke and Celeste in your team. Or in the final act, when you have to make 3 teams of 4, well, you can use less, I guess, if you don't find everyone. But you get 3 teams of 4, and you have to figure out how to make all of them work. Someone's got to heal, and someone's probably got to cast Ultima. No, I was talking to my dad, and my dad was like, he sat there and he grinded, and he made sure everyone knew Ultima and everyone knew Curaga, and that was just so that like everyone was always full HP. I mean, anyone who wasn't healing was casting Ultima and they were just doing max damage. I think that's a fine way to play, and I think it was fun. I like DPS characters like Sabin, obviously, but I think that's so cool that that's in this game. The Magicite system was honestly perfect for a JRPG. At least it's one of the most fun progression systems I've ever engaged with in this style. I think without looking at my notes, I just talked about everything I wanted to talk about skill progression, just because I had so much fun with the system that it rolled off the tongue. I've been looking at like my notes for the rest of the video, and I think I just enjoyed talking about it because it's something I actually had a lot of fun with. And that's not common. Normally, I really struggle to talk about videos or talk about things in videos when I don't have a script with me. However, I've really enjoyed talking about Final Fantasy VI with you guys. I hope it's very clear to you guys that I really enjoyed this game. Not just because people were very mad with my Final Fantasy 3 and 4 reviews, but because I actually had a great time with it. And I just want to show you guys something real quick. Let me pull it up. So I've been keeping a tentative list of my Final Fantasy tier list of where all these games go, and I'm going to be doing an actual one at the end of after this challenge of playing all the Final Fantasies. Subscribe if you guys want to, like, I'm not actually pointing a gun at you. Subscribe if you want to see the rest of these videos, because I will be starting Final Fantasy VII Remake, and then I'll be playing Rebirth soon, so be excited for those. But this is kind of my tentative list so far, with Final Fantasy VI sitting confidently in S tier and ahead by a large margin. It's not even like close. I really enjoyed 5, but 6 is sitting up so high right now that I'm honestly scared. My favorite is Final Fantasy 13. I don't know where Final Fantasy 13 is going in comparison to this. We'll see when we get there. But with that, I just really appreciate you guys for watching these videos. It's been fun talking to you guys, and be sure to come into the Twitch streams if you want to hang out. So thank you guys so much for watching this. As always, I've been Muffin. You guys have been amazing, and I'll see you guys next time. Final Fantasy 6 was pretty good. Peace.